Thing on. All right, let's get right into this. Welcome to IU. Welcome to WIUR, Iona University's radio station, right here on YouTube and coming soon to Spotify and Twitch. You're currently tuning in to the premiere episode of the Filmcast. My name is Aiden Lorenzo, and on this podcast, I'll be I'll be talking about the latest in movies, whether it be any upcoming releases or new films that have just come out. And before that, I'm gonna give a shout out to my Instagram page at Aiden's_reviews. So just follow that when you get the chance. And with that being said, let's get right into this. Starting off, I'll be talking about some of the upcoming releases for the rest of this month, whether that be in theaters or on streaming. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Starting with the most upcoming release, and that which is technically coming out tonight or tomorrow, doesn't really matter. That film is, of course, Olivia Wilde's sophomore directorial effort, Don't Worry, Darling, starring Harry Styles, Florence Pugh, Olivia Wilde, no surprise there, and Chris Pine. Now that now this movie has been on the tip of everyone's tongues recently, but mainly for one reason and one reason alone: backstage drama. I'm sorry, behind the scenes drama. Mainly, mainly this has to do with Shia LaBeouf exiting the film before Harry Styles was signed on, the pay disparity between Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, as well as as well as behind the scenes tussles between Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh. So, yeah, regard regardless of the behind the scenes drama, this should be one hell of a. Now I'd say that. Who cares? Without Regardless, this will be an amazing. Regardless, this will be something that will get people in, whether it's the allure of Harry Styles or just the interesting premise that's kind of like a mix between The Truman Show and The Matrix. Don't Worry, Darling will be distributed by Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema, and it will be hitting theaters tomorrow. And moving on to next week, we actually have three notable releases. On September 28th, I think, we have net we have a film coming to Netflix called Blonde, which is a biopic about the blonde bombshell herself, Marilyn Monroe. The film will star the film will star Ana de, the film will star Spanish actress Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, as well as featuring the likes of Adrian Brody, Bobby Cannavale, and Julianne Nicholson. The film the film, like Don't Worry Darling, has caught a surprising amount of controversy, but mainly due to a couple things. First off, the casting of Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, considering that Ana de Armas is not necessarily American, and she's keeping her Puerto Rican Spanish accent with her. This has surprisingly caught a lot of controversy, and to that I say, deal with it. It's not my problem. Anyways, the film has also caught a lot of controversy, mainly due to its NC-17 rating, which may which makes it the very first streaming release to be given that rating. So there's that. Regardless, this should be a highly interesting biopic that will be hitting Netflix on Wednesday, September 28th. Or at least I think that's when it does. Anyways, and speaking of streaming, we got one coming to you guys from the big overlords over at Disney, and they are cashing in on nostalgia with next week's release of Hocus Pocus 2, the long-awaited, nearly 30 years in the making sequel to the Halloween cult classic. The film will see the main three witches, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, coming back to their iconic roles and once again terrorizing the town of Salem, Massachusetts. The film will be hitting Disney Plus sometime next week, preferably on September 30th. And speaking of September 30th, that that will be one of our last major releases of the month with the gay romantic comedy Bros, directed by Nicholas Stoller of Forgetting Sarah Marshall fame and starring Billy Eichner. And yeah, that's really all I can say about it. It's a gay romantic comedy made by the guy who made Forgetting Sarah Marshall and starring Billy Eichner. Regardless, this film will sure to will be sure to interest and humor those who decide to see it, and it will be hitting theaters on September 30th. Now let's get into to the meat and potatoes of this podcast, the film review. And and this week I decided to do something special. Last week the past weekend I went to see a little horror movie called Barbarian. Now, for those who don't know, I will give a basic rundown of this movie. Barbarian is a- Barbarian is a horror movie directed by Zach Kreger, who for the two or three people who actually know who he is, he is a he's a comedian best known for his duo, The Whitest Kids You Know, starring alongside the alongside his late friend Trevor Moore. Rest in peace. The film stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgard, and Justin Long. At, and the film follows a young woman named Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, who decides to rent an Airbnb in Detroit, Michigan. But little does she know that that Airbnb is double booked, as Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård, d- has all has come right before her. Regardless, they decide to just try to make things work. That is until Tess discovers the basement, and let's just say it all goes downhill from there. And about halfway into the movie, it becomes Justin Long's movie, as he plays a D-list actor with some very non-consensual allegations against him, and he just so happens to own the house that Tess and Keith have been staying in. So he decides to sell that off to just make some money. And then he discovers the basement, and let's just say things get crazy from here. Now, you may be wondering, why am I why have I been why have I been vaguely discussing why things have gone crazy? Well, the real well, what I can really say is just go see it. Trust me when I say that you will not regret it, because Barbarian is an absolutely wild horror movie. I and don't take my word for it. Look at the advertisements on social media. They they are literally people in the theater audibly reacting to what goes on in the movie. Again, don't take my word for it. Anyways, the film is distributed by 20th Century Fox. Oh wait, I'm sorry. 20th Century Studios. Uh, once one of the big 6 Hollywood studios, and now a member of the Walt Disney Company, because of course it is. Alongside 20th Century Fox, Regency Enterprises has been the main financier of this movie, which has led many people to say that it's an independent movie that has been that has mainly been picked up by a bigger studio, and that's really all. And some people are thinking, well, it's distributed by one of the big 6. How is it an independent film? Well, it was mainly financed by Regency Enterprises, and it has a budget in like the 8-digit range, mainly in the mainly in the 10 to 15 million dollar range. Anyways, so yeah, Barbarian. It's a pretty wild movie, but aside from being so-called wild, it also it also supplies itself with some well-built up tension and great editing, great cinematography, and some truly great performances. Prior to this movie, I never heard of Georgina Campbell, but after this movie, I really hope she goes on to do more big films like this. Bill Skarsgård, for those who don't know, was all was mainly got his big break thanks to playing Pennywise in the 2017 adaptation of Stephen King's It, as well as the 2019 sequel It Chapter 2. And Bill Skarsgård is not as creepy in this film, but he is relative but he does play awkward a bit of a bit of an awkward fella, to say the least. But the real MVP of this movie has got to be Justin Long as AJ, the D-list actor with some, let's just say, not radio-friendly allegations against a co-star of his, and thus he decides to sell off some properties that he has in Detroit, Michigan, which just so happens to be the house that Georgina Campbell and Bill Skarsgård are staying at. And let me tell you, Justin Long, he's he's honestly a very underrated actor. If you've ever seen movies like Dodgeball or Waiting or Accepted or hell, even Live Free or Die Hard, he definitely gives it he definitely gives it a good performance. And this is no ex- and here it's no exception because he truly plays a very heinous and unlikable person. But he also supplies the film with some well-deserved comedy. And yeah, it I never thought I'd say this, but as unnerving and disturbing as this movie is, it is pretty funny. Then again, it is made by a comedian. So that's really all I can say. Other than that, Barbarian is definitely one of those films that hopefully will get a much bigger appreciation as the years goes on, and especially considering that we are sliding into the spooky little month of October, we it'll definitely get a much bigger following during during Halloween. And with that, I'm giving Barbarian a nice 4 out of 5 because this is a movie that truly does deserve it. And now that we've gotten the review portion out of the way, I'm going to be and now that we've gotten the review portion out of the way, I'd like to I'd like to let you know of any I'd like to let you know of some films that are coming out in October that you should be very aware about. And excuse me for 1 second. All right, and starting off on October 7th, we have probably one of my most anticipated films of the year, Amsterdam, a film that has an absolutely all-star cast, including Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Chris Rock, Anya Taylor-Joy, Zoe Saldana, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Timothy Oliphant, Taylor Swift, Rami Malek, and Robert De Niro. The film will be directed by controversial director David O. Russell. Why is he controversial? Well, if I can be honest, that's a story for another time. Anyways, the film is a period mystery comedy about three friends: a doctor played by Christian Bale, a nurse played by Margot Robbie, and a lawyer played by John David Washington, who, fun fact, is actually the son of Oscar-nominated actor and acting legend Denzel Washington. Anyways, it follows the three as they become the prime suspects in a murder set during the 1930s. And seeing that and judging by the all-star cast of this movie, this will definitely be a pretty entertaining film, to say the least. Anyways, the film is scheduled to be released on October 7th, 2022. However, I should point out that AMC Empire 25 in Manhattan, New York, will be doing a special screening of this film this Tuesday that will not only be in IMAX, but but it will also feature a live Q&A session from director David O. Russell, as well as the cast of that movie. So, yeah, that's really all I can say about that. And moving on to October 14th, we have Halloween Ends, the 13th, yes, 13th and final installment in the Halloween franchise. Well, hopefully final. The film will be directed by David Gordon Green, who some of you may know as the comedic genius behind Pineapple Express. But he's not afraid to jump into some more darker territory, as can be seen in his Halloween trilogy. And actually, the film is co-written by Danny McBride. And for those who don't know, Danny McBride is for those who don't know, Danny McBride has mainly been in comedic films like Pineapple Express, Tropic Thunder, and This Is the End, and even doing voice acting for films like Despicable Me, Sausage Party, and the Angry Birds movie. Ah, damn it. Anyways, the film will see Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her iconic role as The film will see Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her iconic role as Laurie Strode, which she previously reprised almost 45 years ago in the original John Carpenter classic Halloween. The film will be released on October 14th, 2022, and like the previous film, Halloween Kills, it'll also stream simultaneously for about 2 months on NBC Universal's streaming service, Peacock. And moving ahead to that next week, on October 21st, we have probably one of the most anticipated films, not only of the month, but maybe even of the year. And that film is, of course, DC's Black Adam, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the title character, alongside Aldous Hodge, Noah Centineo, and Pierce Brosnan. For those of you 90s kids, James Bond. Anyways, why this film is so highly anticipated? Well, for starters, it is the 11th film in the DC Extended Universe. And more importantly, it stars Dwayne Johnson as a superhero. Like, what more do you want? And like I said, the film will be released on October 21st, 2022. And also, on October 21st, there we'll be seeing a new horror film coming from Netflix. And that film will be Henry Selick's Wendell and Wild. Now, for those who don't know who Henry Selick is, he is the he's the stop motion mastermind behind films like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline. And joining him in bringing this movie to life will be iconic comedy duo Keegan Michael Key and Jordan Peele. Now, let's talk about Jordan Peele for a moment. Many of you know Jordan Peele as, of course, one half of Key and Peele. However, recently, he's been making a name for himself as a horror filmmaker, with such iconic films as Get Out, Us, and most recently, Nope. Yes, a movie called Nope. Anyways, the film will follow two scheming demon brothers, Wendell and Wild, played of course by Keegan Michael Key and Jordan Peele, who enlist the aid of a 13-year-old to summon them to the land of the living. Now, surprise. Uh, um, Now this film will be Henry Selick's first film that he's done since Coraline, and it will be slapped with a PG-13 rating. Yeah, I know. A PG-13 animated film. Crazy. Anyways, the film will be getting a limited theatrical release on October 21st before hitting Netflix 1 week later on October 28th, 2022, just in time for things to get spooky. And in all honesty, I don't really know what else to talk about right now. So never thought I'd say this, but I guess we'll I guess this will be where we'll be wrapping things up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like, comment, and subscribe to WIUR Gales Radio. I'm Aiden Lorenzo, and I hope you have a very nice day. And I'll see you guys next week for my review of Don't Worry, Darling. Bye.